President Biden's pardons and the Trump transition here. I want to bring in Democratic Congressman for Rhode Island, Seth Magaziner. Congressman, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So first of all, your reaction here to Biden's pardons as we move toward the end of the term here. And what is your position here on any perhaps preemptive pardons, again, specifically for some members of the January 6th committee or members of the Biden administration in general? As you just heard Mary Alice Parks say, you know, the White House didn't rule it out today.
Well, first of all, the pardons that were announced today are good examples of how the presidential pardon authority should be used and has been used by other presidents in the past. These were primarily individuals convicted of nonviolent offenses, marijuana-related offenses, and other similar offenses that have gone on to do great acts of service to our country. And so, you know, this is the way that presidential pardons have been used by the last several administrations, and it's very much in keeping with the norms. I personally think that preemptive pardons would be a mistake. And don't get me wrong, I understand why people are talking about it. Donald Trump is talking like a dictator, saying that he wants to lock up his political opponents or people who upset him without any legal basis for doing so. And of course, that's something that should be concerning to all of us. But listen, the way to combat Donald Trump's abuses of the rule of law is not to further lower the bar when it comes to the norms that you know have been the case you know in this country for many years. And I am concerned about the situation. I mean, some of the people he's talking about are my colleagues and my friends and are patriotic Americans. But if Donald Trump tries to start locking people up just because he doesn't like them, there's going to be an uproar in this country. The American people will not stand for it. The courts will not stand for it. He will not get away with it. And I don't think that preemptive pardons are the way to go. They imply guilt where no guilt exists. And it's also a slippery slope. I mean, you know, you could envision hundreds or thousands of people that President Biden could pardon preemptively, and Donald Trump would still come up with other people that he would want to go after. So I don't like that idea. I don't think it's the right thing to do, but that in no way diminishes the very real concern that I have about Donald Trump's upcoming attempts to abuse the rule of law.
I do want to ask you about the transition here. We know that Pete Hegseth spent a lot of time on the Hill, his nominee for defense secretary, of course, and today he met with a Democrat. He met with John Fetterman. Have you been speaking with any Democratic senators that perhaps might consider either also meeting with him or even perhaps confirming someone like Pete Hegseth?
Well, the senators who I have spoken to are highly skeptical of Pete Hegseth. He clearly has questions and you know issues that raise questions about his judgment and about his sobriety. But he's also come out with positions that are just flat wrong, opposing women serving in combat, and opposing gay and lesbian Americans serving in combat. The bottom line is this. When it comes to who should be able to fight for the United States of America, the answer is anyone who can fight should be able to fight, regardless of gender. And Pete Hegseth doesn't get that. He is still, you know, arguing positions that people have moved past decades ago. And so when I talk to senators on the Democratic side, look, some of them may meet with him because they feel that that is their job and part of their due diligence. But I think he'll have a very hard time getting support, as will some of the other nominees. Tulsi Gabbard is a highly problematic nominee. Kash Patel at FBI is highly problematic. And I think there's a good chance that one or more of those nominations will fail in the Senate.
We hear some things on the opposite side of the aisle, of course, that are very different, and noting here that Pete Hegseth sort of walking back his stance on the don't ask, don't tell policy. And he also, you know, in the longer version of his women in combat statement, he went on to say that he's concerned that, you know, the bar would be lower to allow them to fight in combat, but also that it was more based on strength-based positions. It wasn't, I think, as widely viewed throughout the military as it seemed initially. I do want to ask you about this bill, though. memo that you have, this Trust in Congress Act, to effectively eliminate the ability for members of Congress to trade stocks. Are you getting support from leadership behind that? Because as some of our colleagues point out here, there are some even Democrats that really like to trade in large volumes. Nancy Pelosi's name came up.
Yeah. So this is a bill that I am excited to be taking leadership of. I'm inheriting it from Abigail Spanberger of Virginia, who is retiring at the end of this Congress. And it's a bill that is long overdue. When people elect us to serve in Congress, they need to know that their members of Congress are making decisions based on what is best for the people and not what is best for those members of Congress's bank accounts. And the potential for conflicts of interest is just too high. This is a bipartisan bill. Over 80 members of Congress signed on as co-sponsors in the 118th Congress, both Democrats and Republicans. The Republican co-lead of this bill, Chip Roy of Texas, is very passionately in favor, and he and I have had some good conversations, strategic conversations about how we plan to try to get this bill over the finish line in the next Congress. Yes, of course, there are some members who are opposed, but I think when we educate them and we let them know that there are ways that they can continue to save, like, for example, through blind trusts or by investing in mutual funds without trading individual stocks. Once we go through that education process with them, I think that support will grow. And also, we need to make sure that they know that the public wants this, the public expects this. This is like the bare minimum of what we should be doing to help restore ethics in Congress. And I'm looking forward to taking ownership of this bill and doing everything I can to get it done.
And do you think that in the end, Chuck Schumer would support it?
I think that when members on the House and the Senate side hear from their constituents who want this, that ultimately we will be able to get it done.
All right. Congressman Seth Magaziner, thank you for your time today. We appreciate you coming on.